Okay, hey there. So I'm going to be offering, pretty much explaining the first part of the presidential debate between Biden and Trump to try and offer context and to try to explain to perhaps people that are stuck between the middle and don't know who to vote. So I'm going to be trying to explain everything in a very simple and easy manner for you to understand because a lot of the presidential debates are just a bunch of hoopla, and that can oftentimes be summed up. And additionally, I will be providing arguments and I will be explaining and trying to back up some of the claims that are made. I will be doing this with the point of view of someone who has not done any research, so I will not be bringing out any extra information, any extra sources or anything, simply to try to mimic someone who has not done any research. If you do want to try to do research to back up some of the claims that are made in this video, please go ahead. You can post them in the comments, and I'd want to read them. But yeah, the first part is really talking a bit more about the economics of the USA, and so that's really what we're going to be looking at right here. So yeah.
Let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
Okay, so this is just a really good question from the presenter here. So we're going into economy right now, and the question is, hey, what are you doing to solve inflation? From what we see from the numbers, inflation isn't going down. We've got groceries are going up, home prices are going up. What are you doing? What are you doing that's better than Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working from the kitchen table, things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Very hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination that I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now.
Just gonna bring the quality up if you don't mind me, because this is pretty terrible. Wow, there's nothing better.
A situation where, if you had to take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos. Things were in chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people. It was $400. We're beginning next year. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Okay, so this answer by Biden right here is really interesting. So he's just going to say, hey, we're working on it, but what we were left with by President Trump was pretty terrible. So we're doing improvements. We're on our way to improve, but Trump did a bad job beforehand, and so now we weren't able to keep this up. But in the future, we will make inflation go down. And he's going to be bringing up a bunch of other things. He'll be bringing up, for example, the fact that he's going to be building 2 million units, the issue of corporate greed, unemployment, a lot of these issues that I might have skipped over by skipping because I don't want this video to take forever. But yeah, just bringing up facts. He's saying, hey, this is what we're doing to solve the problem. And this is a really good answer to the question. And he's directly answering what he's doing. What's the issue of the problem? The question asking.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression. A lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. We had given them back a country where the stock market jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, the bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Okay, so that's this is the answer from Trump is really instructive here, and it's telling us a lot of things. Trump is first of all going to be starting this argument with the fact that he's got the greatest economy in the entire world. And once again, I'm not going to be fact-checking that because I'm not doing any research. So we're going to be taking up him by his word, and we're going to go through the fact that Trump did have the greatest economy. And Trump is defending himself. He's saying, well, what messed us up was COVID. And to Trump's credit, that does make sense. The reason COVID had a massive impact on the economy of pretty much every country in the world. So, and he's saying that, well, we had an amazing economy, COVID brought us down, and Biden didn't bring us back up after COVID. The issue is that President Trump is forgetting to mention the fact that COVID wasn't just 2020, but it was also 2021 and 2022. And so Biden was still in COVID when he came up, and he still had to go through it. And so, in facts like we got us out of COVID that Trump did say are just factually wrong because COVID lasted afterwards, after Trump got out of office. And so those are kind of like the main issues that we see over here. Well, at least that I personally see over here. But Trump does make a really good answer here. He is saying, hey, we can do much, it was COVID. He's just factually incorrect in stating that he got them out of COVID because COVID ended in 2022, not 2020, and Trump wasn't president in 2022. He ended his term in 2020.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks that we have the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where American history, $2 trillion, he raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we still found ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that none any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump.
Okay, so that's pretty much the end of the question. And the way the question is formulated is that the way the debate is formulated is that you've got a question, the first president can answer, then you've got a rebuttal, and you've got like a counter rebuttal. So just three small debates, 3 small arguments, and then you switch questions and you change the subject. So this is technically the final point on inflation. It's supposed to be, we're going to be switching to another idea of inflation that is still staying in the ideas of economics. But Biden's answer is really interesting because Biden really does not attack inflation really at all. He has actually pretty much changed the subject. First of all, he's going to come up the fact that the greatest economy is false, but his only backup arguments for that is that nobody else says it, which is just not strong backup arguments. He is counteracting Trump's arguments without providing any valuable reason for it or without providing any proof, which is a pretty big flaw when you're ever doing a debate or arguing with anyone. You have to be able to support your arguments with proof, and Biden just doesn't do it there. Now, granted, Trump didn't do it either, but mostly when you're debunking him, if Biden had arguments to prove that, if Biden could have said, hey, even before COVID, the stock market was down, then that argument can be made. Or perhaps our economy is better right now than when Trump was. Then that argument can be made if he's actually got proof. But the only thing he's saying is nobody is saying that the greatest economy in the world is true, which is pretty bad. However, he is making a couple other good arguments here. So the next thing he's going to say is he's going to be talking about the wars in Afghanistan, and which is kind of stupid in my opinion because, not the war in Afghanistan, the housing crisis, which is stupid because once again, the job crisis, it's just like COVID hits and it's just not a good skill, mostly when it's that unexpected. And like, as much as Trump might have not done a great job handling COVID, it was a very unexpected thing. Nobody expected it. And pretty much everybody into lockdown in the entire world. And so COVID, and so I do not believe that Biden's argument on the jobs can make sense simply because of the COVID crisis, which did have a massive impact on the economy. And in fact, the COVID is going to be brought up multiple times in this argument because, well, it had a massive impact on the economy and is a major reason why the U.S. economy went down for a while. But then Biden is going to bring up the Afghanistan wall, and he's bringing up an interesting point, but it comes out of nowhere, really. I believe Trump mentioned the military earlier at some point, but Biden, it was such a small mention, and Biden really doesn't have to attack that. Instead, he can stay on the topic of inflation. He can keep on working on this, because Trump really didn't say anything about how he was planning on fixing inflation. And Biden can really easily say, hey, look, this guy isn't planning on fixing it. What's he going to do to fix it? Instead, Biden's attacking him on military, which just doesn't make much sense in my opinion. And as much as it's amazing that nobody has died in the Afghanistan war, no U.S. troops, nobody has died, that no U.S. troops are dying right now, this isn't a question about military. The debate isn't on military right now. It's economics, and there's a difference, and it's an important difference to make.
I want to follow up if I can. You
I'm
want
allowed to respond to him.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute. Bring it to the U.S.
Of course, countries that have been ripping us off for years.
Okay, I do want to have the follow-up here.
10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
Not gonna dri-
Just to give context, because I skipped it, he is saying Trump is going to be imposing extra 10% tax. He wants to bring 10% tax on exported goods into the U.S. And he's asking him, how is that not going to affect inflation? Which is a really, really strong, good question. Because, well, if you make stuff 10% more expensive to bring in, you're going to make them 10%, or not necessarily 10%, but you're going to make them more expensive inside the country. And so if Trump wants to be able to back up this argument that the economy is going great and that he's not causing inflation, then he needs to find a way to expound this and explain why that's not causing inflation.
Travel higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others. In all fairness to China, it's going to just other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. Went down and he inherited 9% inflation. Now he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months, and then it blew up under his leadership because it's probably the worst administration in history. And we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country.
The national debt soared to...
Okay, so that's pretty much that question here. And we aren't going to see a rebuttal from Biden, which is kind of weird, but I guess it is what it is. So what is really interesting with this answer here is just Trump is going to make a massive fool of himself here in this answer for multiple reasons. So the first thing he's going to be talking about is the fact that it's not going to be making prices go higher. And I believe I skipped that, but he did say at the start it's not going to make prices go higher, which is kind of weird, and I do not understand where his logic comes from. If you make products 10% more expensive to go into the country, inside the country, they're going to be more expensive because the corporations are not going to be paying the same price. They're not going to be charging the same price for you to buy them if they have to pay an extra 10% to get them in. That's just going to cost them. That's just going to lose them extra money. But then he's also going to go up and he's going to say that pretty much everything that Biden did say is wrong. And he's going to say that the only thing he did say that was true was the regulation cuts. So, and the tax cuts, which he will go out and defend later on. But right now he's going to say that Biden said he inherited 9% inflation, which Biden never made that argument. Biden made the argument that he inherited a bad economy, never that he inherited 9% inflation. And so the issue with this argument is that Trump's going to say, hey, this guy's a liar. I'm going to debunk one of his facts, and then he's going to debunk a completely different fact that Biden didn't say. And I mean, he said he's inherited inflation and made the prices go higher, but he's also one of the main points that I might have skipped over. One of the main things that Trump said, and I do heavily recommend watching the debates yourself if you do want to make an objective opinion, because I am biased like every human being. But one of the main points that Trump did say was that Biden's quote spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and because they don't know what they're doing, which is just completely stupid and a dumb argument, because Trump is going to be saying that, but he's not debunking and he's not proving that argument in any shape, way, or form. He isn't showing any things that Biden spent his money on that are bad. He is not any of that. No, he's just saying, hey, you spent your money wrongly. But he isn't saying, like, this is why it's wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. He's just saying, you spent your money wrongly. I'm not expanding into why it's wrong, I'm just saying it's wrong. And so that's just completely stupid. You need to back up your argument. Trump is going to be doing this multiple times here, but this is the first time that really is blatant. And then he's going to say that he was getting out of Afghanistan with dignity, which is just so stupid, because like it's human lives. So like personally, in my opinion, I don't really care about the dignity of my country when it comes to saving human lives. If my country gets a bit more disrespect, but I save like 100 or so human lives that are part, or even more when it comes to Afghanistan, because other people, because the Afghanistani, I think. But if I save 100 U.S. civil lives, lives, but that means I bring a bunch of people back into my country, well then I will do so. I will if I like the dignity of the country, in my opinion, has not much value when it comes to saving human lives. And he's gonna call it the Biden evacuation the most embarrassing day in the U.S. history, which, if that's the argument you want to make, you can. I'd say the most embarrassing day in U.S. history was... actually, it was probably the Declaration of Independence, but, like, there's a bunch of other ways, and just getting out of a war that you're not actively winning and that's causing you death should never be embarrassing, because you don't need to win wars. Like, winning a war, getting out of a war is not necessarily embarrassing if you are saving lives. The objective of wars, as technically, is to save lives. And so if you are getting a war because you believe that it's saving more lives, then it is not. It is anything, if anything, it is actually really impressive, the fact that you're able to recognize that fact and to recognize that you should sue for peace.
Record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Okay, so the presenter is going to bring up a fact that Trump passed a law that made top corporations pay less taxes. And he's also going to bring up the fact that both Trump and both Biden are attacking national debt. The issue here really with the presenter's strategy is that he's saying, hey, you did national debt, but then he's asking Trump a completely different question, and later on he's going to go back to Biden but ask him to attack the national debt, which means that instead of both answering one question, which they should be doing to show which one has the best solution, for example, to the problem, which could be national debt, instead they're answering two completely different questions. But they're both man-childs, so they're both going to end up fighting no matter what.
The tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. Corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before. The oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out, he did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
Okay, so that's really. So this is. Trump makes a massive fool of himself here, but he's going to back it up with the fact that he can, like, actually speak, and that he's got really good speaking powers, and he's really good at making speeches. Historically wise, humans should be taught to pay attention to people that will say and have really good speaking powers, but that can't back that up really well. Mostly when they're heavy nationalists. I personally believe that human beings should pay attention to that. But I'm going to go over all of his arguments right here. The first one is that he is saying that tax cuts create an economy, and that the economy does better by reducing taxes to corporations, which is a stupid argument and is debunkable, very easily debunkable. So Trump's arguments, he's saying that that the tax went from 39% to 21% on big corporations, which is massive. That is 18% of their taxes, well, actually more than 18%. Well, a massive amount of their taxes just removed. Like, pretty much a third of the taxes on these corporations was removed. And Trump's argument was that, well, that allows these corporations to make more money since they have to pay less taxes. And then with this extra money, well, it evens out. So they make enough money so that even though they're only paying 21%, they're paying the same amount. Because that's the only way, or they're even paying even more, because that's the only way that's going to work out. The issue is if you're not, that is like 33%, you're expecting these corporations to make over 33% extra money when you remove 33% of their taxes, which is just not happening. You removed 18% you added 18% to their income back, not 33%. So that massive gap just does not make sense, in my opinion. And so that means to make more money has to come from somewhere else. And there's only really two ways you can do that. The government can print money, which is causing inflation, which isn't good. That is a massive problem we have. Or the government can tax other people since they're not taxing the big corporations, they'd have to tax the less wealthy people to be able to make the money that they're losing off these big corporations. And so the second that you're not taking this argument at face value, that by taxing corporations 18%, giving corporations 18% of their income back, they're going to be making over 33% they're going to be making over 33% more money. The second when you're not taking that argument at face value, that argument is just completely dead, because you either have to inflate more money or you have to tax the poor, which nobody really wants that. Except if you're incredibly wealthy, I guess. But then he's going to say that he gave Biden the perfect situation, that he almost fixed COVID, which is interesting because he's saying, hey, I did pretty much everything I had to do with COVID, and then Biden kept it going for 2 years. He's going to say Biden had more deaths than Trump, which is stupid because Biden had COVID for 2 more years. And the thing is, Biden couldn't really do much. Like, every other country in the world had COVID last for an extra 2 years. So I believe that, like, even if Trump did do an amazing job, it is, since every other country had it for over 2 extra years. So I do not believe it can be put on Biden that COVID lasted this long. I do not believe that's an issue. And the arguments that Biden had more deaths just dies once you realize, hey, these deaths are caused by like Biden had COVID for 2 extra years, and virus mutates and become more dangerous over time, and so the COVID-19 virus that was alive, it's half alive, but that existed when Biden was president, is more powerful. It can infect more people a lot easier. It will send people into a greater, into a worse state than just the basic coronavirus that Trump had to deal with. And then Trump is going to say something stupid. He's going to say Biden did a disaster with vaccines. Trump's going to go to saying, hey, he's doing a terrible job with COVID, to saying he gave us vaccines. That's the terrible job that Biden did. And unless you're a conspiracy theorist, which if you are, then sure, he did a terrible job with vaccines. But unless you are a conspiracy theorist, I think it is pretty objective that vaccines are helpful against viruses in general. I mean, just the flu, just everything. vaccines are usually pretty good, and so the idea that by making vaccines like that, by forcing vaccines, it made it worse is kind of stupid. And the argument he's going to bring up, the proof he's going to bring up, is that people didn't like it, which is just dumb because he's not bringing up any proof that people didn't like it. So once again, he's making an argument but not supplying any proof to this argument. The only proof that he has is that people didn't like it, similar to how Biden had an argument earlier where Biden said, hey, we don't have the greatest economy in the world, nobody says it. Trump saying, hey, vaccines are bad, everybody was saying it. But nobody's has actual proof, nobody's actually saying anything of actual, nothing has an actual, substance, because it's completely worthless if you don't have stats, if you don't have something to back it up. And because of that, I believe that is just stupid of Trump to attack the vaccines when the only thing he has to back it up is, I didn't like it, and other people didn't like it, and I believe that the greater part of the population didn't like it. That's the only thing he has to bring up, because believe it or not, taxes are bad. Nobody likes taxes, but they are good for the country. And so vaccines might be bad, even if the greater population didn't like vaccines, they might be bad, but they are better for the greater population. It's how it works. Some things are bad, people might not like it, it'll still be better for the greater population. So that argument is completely stupid. And then he's going to say that the US is a third world country, which I have no clue where that comes from. First of all, he's going to use nation. I'm not sure if it's country or nation. I like country better, but just for the idea that the US is a third world country is so stupid and so flawed when you look at every other country, and it clearly shows just no knowledge on a bunch of other countries. The USA, literally, one of Trump's big arguments is, hey, we have to protect ourselves from immigrants that are coming from third world countries. If the only reason why immigrants are a problem is because they are coming from third world countries and they are necessarily poorer than you guys and have stronger. That is the main argument of the immigrants. But so if the US is a third world country, immigrants wouldn't be going to the US because it would have the exact same thing. You cannot call the US a third world country when they've got one of the best economies in the world. It is just so stupid. And then he's gonna go back to saying that the respect and dignity of the US is down, which, if you're massively patriotic, sure, that might be important for you, but he's not bringing up any arguments, he's not bringing up any proof to that argument. He's just saying, hey, it's down, trust me, I know it's down, but he's not bringing up any facts, no stats, nothing, no polls, no proof to other people that that other countries' respect of the US is down, which, once again, pretty stupid. You need to supply your argument with proofs.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
The presenter, for some reason here, so he's going to ask, once again, I said this earlier, he's going to ask Trump one question and then ask Biden a different question, and then going to pretend that it was the same question. And now Biden's kind of tough here, because he wants to debunk a lot of these claims that Trump made, but he has to answer this extra question on national debt, and so it's going to be tough for him to do that and to go through it. And what Biden's just going to do is going to completely ignore all of these facts and everything that Trump said, which is pretty much almost everything, but in my opinion, it's pretty bad. And from just a debate-wise, Trump, you have to attack. If Trump is making arguments and not putting proofs to those arguments, Biden has to point that out and to show that, to be able to highlight the fact that Trump doesn't have actual substance behind it. And that's part of winning debates. If Biden can correctly do this multiple times, which every time that Trump has done it wrongly, for example, if Biden just said, hey, what are you saying? If Biden just attacks this argument on vaccines here, Biden can easily make Trump look like a fool here because of those vaccine ideas. But instead, he has to switch completely question and just not going to answer that, which is a shame because it would have been. It's just bad work from the presenter, since it does not give Biden an opportunity to answer to Trump at all.
We had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period. Number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we needed are eligible for what I've been able to do with
Depends on a fumble in his words here, which we will skip and I will go over. But pretty much at the end, he's going to say that he wants to fix Medicare and all of those with the money he's going to be making from these extra taxes. And pretty much what Biden's saying is, hey, I want to tax the wealthy. And that's what I want to do. I believe that we should be taxing the wealthy. The wealthy have more money. I believe it makes sense to us to tax the wealthy. He's debunking the first argument that Trump made, but he's not mentioning the fact that Trump made that argument, which is making it seem unrelated, and which is just making Biden's argument just worse. Like, objectively worse, because Biden is not answering to Trump, whilst Trump isn't answering to Biden. But when Trump's answers are flawed, Biden is not pointing out the flaws in those answers.
He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed.
Okay, this he's gonna be. It's the entire same rant about respect that he's gonna be doing here for the rest of the part here, and then we're gonna be switching completely subjects. So I'm just gonna debunk this. I'm just gonna be talking a bit about what Trump did say there, which is he did say that he's destroying Medicare and Social Security, and he's gonna destroy Social Security, and he's not explaining how Biden's doing it. He's not, like, I skipped over it a bit, but Trump, if you rewatch the thing, he is not explaining how Biden's doing it. He's providing an argument, but he's not providing any proofs. This is the fourth time now, I believe, that he's done this in, 5-6 minutes of the debate going on, which is really not great. And then he goes on and says, they think we're dumb, and he's pretty much going to say, hey, the foreign countries hate us. Again, which is, it's the third time he says it in this economy thing, and the third time that he doesn't supply any actual proofs or any actual reason for other countries to not believe them. He's going to say that he has a lot of friends in the other world and they think the US is going down, which is interesting because even if you have a lot of friends that think it, that doesn't mean the overall belief is that. I can have a bunch of friends that think, hey, the US is doing amazing, Biden's doing an amazing role in it. That doesn't mean the US is necessarily amazing and is doing amazing and shouldn't be ashamed. And he also does talk about immigrants, and in fact he talks about immigrants so much that the presenter has to remind them, hey, we're going to be talking about immigrants later. You don't have to talk about immigrants right now. It's going to be happening later, which is kind of funny in my opinion, because he's literally saying, hey Trump, stop changing the subject here. Let's get on the actual question at hand, which is the economy, not the immigrants. And Trump doesn't really relate any of the immigrants to the economy, except for the part that they are stealing the jobs, which is a very racist statement to make overall, because technically speaking, if they are stealing the jobs, just get better at doing your job. Really, it's not that bad. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I really had to say about this first part of the debate. There's not really much winning. Trump is definitively the better speaker of the two, and that does give the illusion a lot of time that he is winning and that he is providing better arguments. But when we have a little bit closer, when we look a little bit further into Trump's arguments, they are pretty much all of them completely flawed and wrong, and Biden is not answering any of those flaws or doing anything, analyzing anything, which is just objectively a bad thing to do in a debate, in my opinion. But he's kind of being pushed by the presenters. It's how it is. He's not doing a really good job. Overall, Biden, however, has offered better solutions. Overall, in the entirety of the thing, Biden has offered multiple solutions, and he's pointed out multiple things that Trump is doing wrong. Trump, in retrospect, has said that Biden has done a lot of wrong things, but hasn't brought out anything. And so if we're looking at economies, just from a point of view, factual point of view, what are they both saying that they are going to do? Trump is saying that he's going to fix the changes Biden made. Biden is saying, hey, we did good changes. Trump is not saying what are the bad changes Biden made. Trump is saying we're going to fix what Biden did bad. He's not explaining what they did bad, which means, well, just even if you believe that Biden did bad stuff, the fact that he's not explaining what he did bad means that he might not understand exactly what's bad about it, what's going on, which just isn't good. But yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll post the next part whenever I can.